All right, let's dive right in. We're heading to the desolate, rocky island of Patmos. This is where an exiled apostle, John, received a vision that would literally shape the future of Christian thought. We're talking about the very beginning of the book of Revelation. So let's get into it.
So picture this, right? You've got John, an old man, exiled for his faith on this totally barren island. And on the Lord's Day, probably during a quiet moment of worship, the silence isn't just broken, it is absolutely shattered by a voice. A voice, he says, was as loud and clear as a trumpet blast. I mean, you can't ignore a sound like that.
So, compelled by this powerful voice, John turns, and what happens next is what kicks off this entire incredible vision.
And what's the first thing he sees? It's not the person speaking, which is what you'd expect, right? Instead, he sees this radiant display of 7 golden candlesticks. And you just know these aren't just for decoration. They've got this deep symbolic meaning, which we find out represent the 7 churches in Asia.
And right there, walking among those candlesticks, among the churches, he sees a figure. John describes him as one like unto the Son of Man. Now that title, that's a big deal. It's a title Jesus used for himself, and it carries some serious divine weight.
Okay, so who is this Son of Man? John gives us this absolutely stunning, piece-by-piece description of this divine figure. Let's break it down, just like he saw it. First off, his head and his hair, they were white like wool, as white as snow. And this isn't about being old. No, this is all about purity, about glory. It's an image that totally echoes the description of the Ancient of Days from the book of Daniel. It's a powerful symbol of divine wisdom.
And then his eyes, wow. John says they were like a flame of fire. Think about that. These aren't just regular eyes. They represent this piercing, all-knowing gaze that sees absolutely everything. Nothing is hidden.
Next, his feet. They're described as being like fine brass, as if they were glowing hot in a furnace. I mean, what an image. It just screams strength, stability, and the unshakable foundation of his judgment.
And his voice, remember how it started like a trumpet? Well, now, John describes it as the sound of many waters. Just try to imagine the thunderous roar of a massive waterfall or a raging ocean. That's the kind of voice we're talking about, one with immense power and authority you just can't argue with.
And then we get to one of the most striking images of all. Out of his mouth comes a sharp, 2-edged sword. Now hold on, this isn't a literal weapon he's swinging around. It's a super potent symbol for the Word of God, and we're definitely going to unpack that in a bit.
So we've got this incredible, almost overwhelming vision, right? But what does it all mean? Let's get into the symbols of power and purity that John is seeing here.
Okay, first, that title, Son of Man. This is so important. It's not just a random name. It's a direct callback to a prophecy in Daniel chapter 7. In that prophecy, a figure called the Son of Man is given an everlasting kingdom that will never be destroyed. So when Jesus used this title for himself, you can see why it was such a big deal. He was claiming that divine authority, which to the religious leaders of his day, well, that was straight up blasphemy. And look how all these other symbols just come together to paint this incredible picture. That golden girdle he's wearing, that points to his majesty as both a high priest and a king. The white hair we talked about, that's all about his purity and divine wisdom. Those fiery eyes, they symbolize his all-seeing knowledge and piercing judgment. And that 2-edged sword, that represents the Word of God, which has the power to bring both mercy and justice. See, every single detail here is loaded with meaning.
So, faced with all of this overwhelming display of glory, how does John react? Well, pretty much how any of us would, I think. He is completely undone. He just falls at his feet as dead. It's such a raw, real human reaction to coming face to face with the divine.
But here's the thing. This vision isn't just meant to terrify John. It's actually meant to build him up. And that leads us to the climax of this whole encounter, the keys to death and hell.
The very first words out of his mouth are, "Fear not." He comforts John, and then he makes what is arguably one of the most powerful declarations in the entire Bible. He says, "I am the first and the last. I am he that liveth and was dead. And behold, I am alive forevermore, and have the keys of hell and of death." Wow. So what does that even mean, to have the keys of hell and of death? Well, it means he has total and complete authority. Because of his atonement and resurrection, Christ alone holds the ultimate power over life, death, and judgment. This even includes the power to carry out what the Bible calls the second death,
that final, eternal separation from God.
Okay, so Christ has established his identity and his authority. Now the vision shifts to its ultimate purpose, giving John a mission to the churches. And remember that mystery from the very beginning of the vision? Well, now it gets explained. Those 7 golden candlesticks, they are the 7 churches. And the 7 stars that Christ holds in his hand, those are the angels, which could mean messengers, or maybe the bishops or leaders of those churches. It's such a powerful image, right? It shows that Christ is intimately present with his people and holds their leaders in his hand.
So with everything clarified, John gets his marching orders. He is commanded to write. And the command is very specific. It's a 3-part structure. Write the things you have seen, the things which are, and the things which shall be hereafter. This simple command literally sets the stage for the entire book of Revelation.
So what's the big takeaway here? What was the point of this whole vision? Well, for the people this was written to who are facing intense persecution, the message was one of incredible comfort. It's a reminder that Christ isn't some distant, absent king. No, he walks among them. He sees their struggles. He knows exactly what they're going through, and he holds their leaders securely in his hand.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about, doesn't it? If this vision was meant to bring comfort and hope to churches in a massive crisis 2,000 years ago, what does its message of Christ's presence, his power, and his ultimate authority really mean for us, right here today?